God didn't create all these different variations and feelings and tongues and stuff just for you to just enjoy one thing. God was like, bro, get after it. Like, listen, that's your boo and that's you. Do you? I ain't even tripping. All right, this how I'm
in the God ordained
space,
which is marriage,
husband and wife.
Okay,
flip that thing, sit that thing.
You're not gonna talk about my Savior like that.
No, that God would God if he must have said, "Thus thou flippest thou thing." Please throw us that thing in a circlet unto thee of the joyfulness.
Are so disrespectful.
Make a joyful noise unto that thing.
Okay.
All the earth. Amen. But he wouldn't give us all those. You know how many pleasure sensors are in a peen?
That's true.
And a clitori?
Which sole purpose is.
Sole purpose of feeling right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Love Hour podcast. I am your host, Miss KevOnStage, and I'm here with my husband.
And co-host.
The
KevOnStage.
The KevOnStage. Kevin?
Why do I have sunglasses on?
Yes, please do tell.
I'm going to tell you because our future is bright right now. You want to know what happened?
What happened?
We balling right now on the Love Hour.
Are we?
Had a conference call with some advertisers. They're interested in sponsoring the podcast.
Okay.
And you know why?
Why is that?
Because it's in the top 200 of all Apple Podcasts.
Hey.
All the podcasts available are in the top 200.
How do you spell podcastis?
2 S's.
Okay.
Okay. And then it's number 18 on the health and relationship category.
That is so phenomenal.
Number 18. There's only 17 above us.
That's phenomenal.
Okay. Now that our podcast can vote, it can join the army, it can smoke cigarettes.
We are a fully adult here.
Our podcast is an adult. And I ain't gonna lie. I'm super proud and confident. I didn't know we were going to rank this high this quickly.
This early.
And the reason why we did is because y'all have been listening.
Thank you guys so much.
Subscribing and rating and commenting on the podcast. That's what really bumped us up, is the amount of y'all who have rated us and commented 5 stars and all the comments. So continue. We told y'all, if you want to support, there's monetary ways. And if you don't have no money or you don't want to spend it, just rate the podcast.
Absolutely.
Share with it. Tell a friend. Tell somebody to download, subscribe. That stuff means the world to us, and that's how you continue to have the podcast.
We are getting the attention of people, and it is because of you. So thank you guys so much.
So keep that same energy every week. Okay.
Okay.
Just
can
listen.
You vote for the same podcast every week?
No, you can. But you
but
can.
What you vote?
You can
comment.
Download. Just download and share with your friends.
Gotcha.
You can always do that as much as you want. And when you tell somebody else about it, tell them to rate, and subscribe, and all that stuff.
If they like us.
No, I don't care if you like us or not. Lie to us. Get the people to know about us.
Yeah, but I don't want your 1-star rating. Email me.
No, not 1 star.
That's what I'm saying.
Lie and say 5-star, greatest podcast ever. But in your heart of hearts,
that way.
Yeah, I don't care how you feel about it. In your heart of hearts, you get that 5-star. And don't
get
you
the
do
5-star. If you got something to say ain't positive, email me and we gonna fix it. We fix the sound, huh?
We did. Spend some money on that. You feel me? Okay. Just wanted to say that.
Well, thank you guys so much again for that. We are greatly and overwhelmingly appreciative.
We are very much happy.
We are very much happy. All right. So moving right into our this or that segment.
Okay.
The question is, do you floss first or brush first?
Okay. So you're assuming I floss.
Hello?
All the time.
I know you do.
Okay. But all the time?
Okay. But don't talk about that. Just answer the question.
No, I'm going to be. We ain't come on here to lie.
In the event that you are flossing, which one do you do first?
I always floss first. Because you floss and then you brush, and then the brush is like the polish. Okay, the floss is in there to get into the nitty gritty of your teeth.
I concur.
And then you're like, oh, because sometimes I floss without even brushing, like popcorn.
So do I. There are times
that.
where you should just floss.
Yeah, like I got a situation I got to handle.
Do you think flossing is more important than brushing?
No.
You need both.
You need both. If
well,
I could only do one or
I'm sorry, not. Obviously, you need both. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, yeah, if you can only do one or the other,
I'd brush. Because at least, I know flossing is important for gum health.
Yes.
But breath health.
Hello?
Need that. That's going to give you a bad rep in the street.
I concur with
However,
that.
if you have really bad gum, then your breath is going to be affected either way. But I feel like more people brush consistently than brush and floss. Because you got to remind people to floss.
Yeah, I agree.
So if I only had the choice to do one.
You're going to brush.
Okay, but now here's another one before we get to you. If you could only brush or wear deodorant, what would you choose? You ain't never had this thought cross your mind?
No, I don't even.
You want to know my answer?
I would.
You really
brush and move to a place that is not hot.
I'm tell you what I do. I'd wear deodorant. I'm gonna tell you why.
Why? Because you could eat food and cover. That's what I thought too.
Mints.
But the only thing is it'll wear off.
Always wear off, but musty.
I know, and the thing is, I sweat so easily.
Musty is that have people feeling the.
But there are people who don't wear deodorant and don't stink.
No, they just think they don't stink.
Hello.
Okay, everybody else around is like, I don't know who told them they don't stink because they're lying. Like Matthew McConaughey doesn't wear deodorant.
You don't.
He just be having. Oh, come on, full grown man. Yeah, I don't want to hear it.
I might change my answer only because I am a sweater, and I would be the one that would be like, "Ooh, girl, you should do better."
Ooh,
because and must, child, because you walk in a room and that's immediate.
And I feel like must goes much farther than breath. Breath, you got to be within like. Man, okay, but somebody's musty. You walk in a room, be like, bro, somebody musty in here. It's true.
That onion smell.
Nobody's ever said, hey, somebody's breath stinks in here. You keep your mouth closed. Just text me. We're standing there. Just text me. I got a situation. But musty? We used to work with a dude who didn't wear deodorant and had the nerve to cut all the sleeves off of his shirts.
That's what I'm talking about. That like I don't know.
He was the the dusty kid on Charlie Brown.
Yes.
He was him. And
what's his name?
I don't remember his name. No. Linus played the piano.
I was gonna say that, but then I was like, I don't think
his name is
him.
Musty Matt.
Okay.
Okay. People went to HR on this dude. He was like,
"Oh, y'all are just cruel."
No. You have to understand. Grown man, no shower, no deodorant.
He didn't take a shower.
He didn't believe in it.
He didn't believe in a shower or deodorant. Oh, he's got to go.
Yeah, and we were just like, fam.
Oh, you gotta go. You can't not do both.
You gotta do one or the other.
Yeah, you gotta at least shower.
And I didn't think about that. If you do live in a cold climate, like if you live in like Siberia.
If it's cold, you're probably not working up a sweat.
Vermont probably never gets that hot.
So it's probably fine.
But you don't have to be sweaty to be musty. But it helps if you're not sweating.
No, yeah, and it's more, that's true, actually. But it's more worked up when you sweat.
Yeah. And I guess you could wear like Nike Under Armour dry fit to keep the must locked if you had to keep your breath. But if you don't have no fresh breath, you cannot even kiss.
That just made me gag. That's gross. Okay, so I floss first. I feel like you have to floss, rinse, and then brush.
Yes. It's a whole thing. It's a whole scenario.
Okay.
Ooh, what's that? What's my
scenario? Send us your this or that.
Send us your this or that.
I have some really crazy ones.
Yes. And where should they send stuff to, including this or that and questions about the podcast and all that?
If you have questions, topics, or feedback, feel free to email us at loveourpodcast@KevOnStage.com, which it's every letter of the alphabet, but child, that's what it is. loveourpodcast@KevOnStage.com.
Boom.
Oh, boom. Before we move on, I am finished with my book, which was Becoming by Michelle Obama. I finished that. Actually, I finished that like right when we first started the podcast. I was on like the tail end of it. Mm-hmm. So I just started a new book that was recommended on a marriage podcast I was listening to, and it is Sex, Jesus, and the Conversations the Church Forgot by Mo Isom. I'm assuming that's how you say this. I haven't even cracked it open. It just arrived yesterday. This is what it looks like. And I'm super excited to read it just based off the title alone. I'm like super excited to read it because I'm hoping that it'll touch on like the purity movement and how that was it was detrimental in some respects to young people. Absolutely.
Detrimental.
That's absolutely
a heavy word to associate with the purity movement.
I would say that the purity movement did not have a balanced approach to sex.
Oh, no.
And that is unhealthy and therefore detrimental because the intent is for you to stay pure until you are married. But once you are married, you can't just do away with all of that negativity that was associated with sex.
I want Freak Nick 96.
Yeah, and so then you go into these relationships expecting to be like free and like in this God ordained scenario in which God says you can have sex, but your mindset hasn't caught up to your vows.
Right.
So that's a difficult transition. And that's what I'm hoping they talk about, but we shall see. And I'll give my feedback and thoughts on it as I read.
They have to talk about it because otherwise it's going to be sex, Jesus, and the conversation the church forgot about. And I also forgot about it.
But they also could not be talking about the purity movement. It could be talking about something totally different.
But they got volume 2. I forgot this. And we all forgot.
Okay.
Y'all must have forgot, Roy Jones. Okay.
Last thing before we go into the topic. So Tamala and David Mann dropped an album.
Yes.
Titled Us Against the World.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had an opportunity to listen to it?
I scanned through, I downloaded it so we could listen together. I scanned a couple of songs.
Okay, so I listened to the entire album.
Did you?
Yeah.
When?
On the way home from my hair stylist.
Oh, okay.
From my beautician.
And what were your thoughts?
So a couple things. Before I drill down to the album itself, I want to make known that I am always here for a Christian couple making music that is love, I love you, you love me, we're one big happy family. Whether that genre is considered to be R&B,
right?
I believe that gospel music, I believe that the gospel period is about the good news, which is the message that you bring, and not necessarily about the beat behind it.
Right.
So I don't have a problem at all with a married couple of however many years and like 3, 4, 5 kids, how many kids they got, coming together and saying that we are married, we love each other. We have beautiful voices because Tamala Mann's voice is just amazing.
And David Mann ain't no slouch.
No, absolutely not. And using their voice to say I love you, and recording that for the world to see, or the world to hear. I saw on social media where they were talking about, and we actually have a group chat, I don't know if I may have read this, but I actually concur because I had the same thought. I was listening to the album. I don't consider this album sex music. I don't consider this album love making music. I consider this album, really, to me, it was a love song to I love you type album to each other. And that's it. I think it's absolutely.
There was nothing on there you wanted to smash to?
No.
Nothing on there?
No.
Meet me at the altar in your white thong.
Absolutely not. Nope. It wasn't, to me, it just wasn't that type of album.
The songs that I heard too, I didn't get that vibe. It was more like, Major. This is why I love you. Ooh, in fact, I was like, this is like Anita Baker-ish. Like, you can totally tell that they're saved still, like by the lyrics. And it wasn't like super raunchy. It wasn't even like R&B-ish, like that. Right.
It is R&B, but it's not like a groovy, like, ooh, I want to grind R&B.
Grind on
it was like a vibe R&B.
All the way to Galilee.
That was pretty good. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they got slammed immediately before people could even hear the album. Because
I agree.
People want to categorize like gospel is gospel, R&B and R&B. I mean, but Fred's made a love song album. DJ Khaled's made some love song. TD Jakes, Lady I Love Her Not Lord.
Yeah, he was the original.
Oh, yes. And so they're just one of many. But man, listen, ain't nobody trying to smash to Shirley Caesar music.
No, and that's the
Mighty
thing.
Clouds of Joy. No,
I don't know. I don't have a problem with it.
I don't either. I made my video because that's what I do.
You did,
but I made that before I even listened to the album. I just feel like when you are Christian and saved, it's hard for you to be as nasty as people want their. I want to make love to this music.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to get in that place and be like, oh, that is not gospel. That's not the Lord make you happy. And you talking about that. Y'all got to understand. If the Song of Solomon was written in plain English,
facts,
that'd be the nastiest R&B album out. You'd be like, yo, Saul was out here.
Facts.
If you translate what garden meant back then, he ain't talking about picking flowers the way y'all think he's talking about. Amen. Oh, come on, somebody. Read it in the Message version. That boy Solly was out here with 100 concubines.
What?
Throw that thing in a prayer circle is what he said. So you just understand that. That's what I always think about when people talk about sex, right? And, especially with the way I grew up, it was like missionary style only type of thing.
At least you got that.
Yeah, I mean, my mom, it was more my family. But God didn't create all these different variations and feelings and tongues and stuff just for you to just enjoy one thing. God was like, bro, get after it. Like, listen, that's your boo and that's you. Do you? I ain't even tripping. All right, this how I imagine
in the God ordained
space,
which is marriage,
husband and wife.
Okay,
flip that thing, sit that thing.
You're not gonna talk about my Savior like that.
No, that God would God if he. I mean, he must have said, "Thus thou flippest thou thing." Please throw us that thing in a circlet unto thee of the joyfulness.
Are so disrespectful.
Make a joyful noise unto that thing.
Okay.
All the earth. Amen. But he wouldn't give us all those. You know how many pleasure sensors are in a peen?
That's true.
And a clitori?
Which sole purpose is
feeling right.
It's pleasure.
God was like, look, man, y'all going to have to deal with rain and heat and have to go to work. The least I can do.
The least.
Is give you all the pleasure principle. Oh, all up in that centered area. Is this making you uncomfortable?
No.
Okay, good. All right.
You just kept going, and I wasn't quite sure.
Get creative. This is the thing.
Are you going to answer the question, though?
What was the question? I'm so lost in my own jokes that I forgot what we're talking about.
Exactly. That's all I'm saying is that you're just off, and I'm just trying to bring us back in because it's going to lead us to the topic, but it is not the topic.
What was the question?
Yes. What did you think about the album?
I liked it. I thought it was I thought before. Well, let me say that I still like it. I think first of all, I like them, and that's the best part. A lot of nice songs, a lot of nice writing, production, all that type of stuff. What I was expecting, and it was only because of social media.
Right.
It was being positioned as an R&B gospel
like
album.
It was going to be some bump and grind R. Kelly type.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that
But it's
at all.
more like if R. Kelly makes like that type of R&B, her and Daniel Caesar, there's this like not as like sex making music, but love songs type thing. So I would equate it more to like her, Daniel Caesar, Major,
absolutely.
Like Jasmine Sullivan. I wouldn't say it's Jill Scott performing the Air
absolutely
Fellatio. But Jill Scott's a lot of her songs from what I hear have that feel like Music Soul Child.
Yes,
it was kind of like
and
Music
honestly,
Soul Child.
that's what I thought immediately.
Yeah.
There was one song in particular, and I was like, "This sounds very Music Soul Child to me." So I was completely here for it. The album itself, there are two songs that were like my actual like favorites. One was Ups and Downs, and the other one's the title track, which is Us Against the World.
Yeah,
did you like any songs?
Mason Jar. It's just funny to have a song.
Oh, I was like, okay. The Ups and Downs song, it had a really nice like vibe to it, and I actually really, really liked the lyrics. Okay. A lot. And then the Us Against the World, I don't actually remember the lyrics on that one, but I do remember that I just was in the car like, okay, I like this. Those were the two songs to me that were like standout songs that I would like play over and over again. But as a whole, I am not against a Christian couple doing something like this.
No, I'm not, because the thing is, I'm not for us having to listen to people making gospel songs about God's greatness. Like, if you want to have sex to music, right? And you don't want to have to listen to Chris Brown or R. Kelly. For now, there's no like in between, right? So because there's a lot of Christians who don't feel comfortable listening to any secular music, what I mean, period. At all. Like even her period, point blank. So, and that's what TD Jakes, The Lady Our Love and Our Lord, like came through. Like if you, and I'm not like making fun of you. That's okay if you, don't feel that comfortable, but I don't think you should have to listen to Hold My Mule.
Right. Well, that's going to kill the mood. Yeah. But also this is the other thing that I actually think, which will segue into our topic just a little bit. And that is that as a whole, I feel like we in the Christian community, we don't acknowledge. Okay. So we say that sex is ordained under marriage. God has ordained that space. But then we ignore sex.
What do you
Does
mean?
That make sense? Like Christians shouldn't. This is a married couple, right? So that's ordained by God. They can have sex under this God ordained relationship, right? But don't talk about it at all.
I don't think. Did you see a lot of that?
Yes. Did you read the comments on the Shade Room?
No.
They're supposed to be Christian. I
saw more comments. I didn't see any of that.
Oh, I saw a lot of that. And
were those from Christians? Do you think?
Yes. And the non-Christians are the ones telling them usually, or maybe more progressive Christians, someone like myself, that are in the comments saying, y'all got to chill out. Like, that's not okay. But there was literally someone on my Facebook friend, and I actually had to unfriend her. No joke.
Cut her off.
I literally unfriended her. And the reason why was because I was like, I'm going to offend you. Because where you are, you have a saved Christian S on your shirt,
right.
A super saved shirt, and child, we just love God differently.
Right.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
And so that I don't offend you, and so you don't feel the need to come on one of my statuses that may rub you the wrong way. I'm just going to I don't know you anyways.
I don't want to offend my brother.
So let's just end this friendship now. And I literally unfriended her because she was like, David and Tamala are supposed to be Christians. They're supposed to represent the Lord, and they producing albums like this. Where is the difference? And all I could say was, to me, that's the problem. What we are saying is that sex is bad. Sex is bad. Don't talk about it. I don't care that you're married. I don't care that you have 5 children, which clearly means you're having sex.
No, that's the Holy Ghost. All of it.
Don't talk about it. And when we do that, we are literally consuming these negative notions of sex that we are going to take into our subconscious. And then when we get married, they show up.
Yeah.
They're going to bubble to the top and they're going to show up. And I think if we were more open and more free to, number one, to talk about sex, but even have this space, like sex in and of itself is not bad because God says you can have it. It's when you take the sex outside of that realm that God ordains that it becomes a sin. And to me, that's the same thing with this music. Music isn't bad.
Right.
It's the lyrics that you put to it that are bad.
Right.
That, you know, that you would say that's not of God. But if they're singing to each other, they mention God to a few different times, to be honest, and their love songs to each other, I don't have a problem.
I don't either, but we are what you would call progressive Christians. And that's the thing, like when you are an artist and you're making music, they know that some people are going to flip
absolutely.
out.
They knew that.
Whatever. So, you know, and honestly, some people probably weren't going to buy that album anyway.
Facts.
So you go to people like us who are like, I get it. You know, buy your album, buy your tour when it comes to town.
I'm completely here for it.
And as am I.
Okay, so we're going to move into our topic, which is talking about sex. And
let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about
you and me.
Let's talk about
all the good times and the bad times.
All the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about doo-doo. Okay.
So we're going to talk about sex, and we're going to talk about the inherent vulnerability that is associated with sex.
All right.
Okay, so what that means is that there is, in order to have a successful sex ship.
Like a relationship?
Yeah, but like in your relationship,
there's
a sex life.
Okay.
A healthy sex life.
Got it.
That's what I want to say.
Probably a phrase that's been said before.
In order to have a healthy sex life, I believe that there has to be, number one, intimacy, and number two, trust.
Yes.
There has to be deep levels of intimacy and deep levels of trust.
Right.
And a lot of times I think when couples have bad sex lives, bad sexual experiences, or you or your spouse are unhappy, it's generally because there is a lack of trust and a lack of intimacy.
Right.
And trust meaning not like trust, I believe you're going to go out and cheat on me. Trust meaning I don't believe that you will respect the boundaries that I may have established around our sex life.
Exactly.
You agree?
I do. And so this is one idea I thought about, like, we said this before, but I had sex before me and Melissa got married, and she had not had any sex. So when we got together, we had different beginning points of our sexual relationship. And it wasn't until that point I was like, oh, that's probably why God wanted people to wait until they got married. And there's also this thing, which probably for another topic, how early people were getting married in the Bible days. Yeah. You know, like Yvonne Orji talks about this, you know, like, and a lot of people were talking about it now, like people are getting married 30, 35. It's a long time to have to, you know, not have sex. So everybody's not going to marriage without without having had sex.
I'm confused. Are you saying, or not confused? I just want clarity. Are you stating, is the belief behind that you shouldn't be a virgin on your wedding day because we are waiting so much later?
No.
Oh.
I just think in the Bible days, people were getting married at 12, 14, 16.
Okay.
So the time you had to wait to not have sex.
This is simply an observation.
Just an observation.
Okay.
Just an observation. So when we got married, I was like, okay, so now I've had, various partners, various encounters, and you had not had any. And on top of that, you were purity method, and also conservative by nature.
True.
So those things all compounded to, me feeling like, well, where do we go from here?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that was an unfortunate beginning to our sexual, life, because we had, abstained for 3 years, I think. Actually longer than that. We started dating when we were 16, got married 4 years.
4 years.
4 or 5 years, because we started dating at 16, got married at 21 and 20. So let's say 4.5, just to be safe. So, it had been a long time since I had sex, and it had been really long since you had sex since birth. So what I wanted to do and what you were able to do and comfortable doing was not the same.
Right.
And that was a difficult transition.
Well, I'm sure it was. But the other thing is that in order for us both to be able to grow in a healthy space, whoever is either more experienced or more just like experimental,
right,
has to make sure that you and your spouse are having very open, honest dialogues surrounding sex. Because what will happen is if you push too hard, or if she says, or he, whoever says, I am not comfortable with X, and then you go and do X, the next time you guys are being intimate, a guard is going to go up. Yeah.
And sometimes, the person who's pushing, the person who's pushing is going for like a lowercase x. Like, I know you say you're not comfortable with capital X.
Right.
I ain't gonna go capital. Right. I'm gonna go lowercase child. Let me see how you.
But I think you have to have that dialogue, and you have to get their buy-in first. Otherwise, you're going to feel like you
pressured.
No, like you trespassed.
Oh.
Like literally
get off my lawn.
Yes, like literally, if I have this boundary and I say I am not comfortable with this, and you overstep that boundary, you literally are trespassing, and that is detrimental to the whole of sex life.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I totally agree. And I think this is the one thing that I also underestimated, the freedom from condemnation that you have when you're having a married sex life is part of the reasons of pleasure. You're free from, at least in our case, you're free from worrying about disease or get tested if you're having unprotected sex, you're not married. And unwanted pregnancy, like if you got pregnant, I wasn't tripping. So there's that freedom, but at the same time, the freedom that comes with trust is equally as important,
more important,
because
the other aspect is the trust and the vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so I have to trust you in order to be open enough, vulnerable enough,
right,
to allow whatever to take place.
Absolutely. So go ahead.
There is a lot of So there is a lot of freedom that comes with, I trust you, and I can be 100% vulnerable with you.
Absolutely. So what I wanted to ask you is, when we first got married, we had what I would call a simple, or not simple. I don't want the negative connotation of basic, but
simple's fine.
Simple sex life. Okay. And in the 14 years we've been married, our sex life has evolved.
Yes.
In a lot of healthy ways.
Yes.
So how would you tell people, how do you get from, maybe I want to do some other stuff, but I'm not necessarily sure, or, because I was a pusher.
Yes.
I was like,
and that's not always good, because it's one of the phases that I'm in right now. Okay. So back up. I have so many thoughts. Let me organize my thoughts.
Okay.
So the first thing is that, sex does have phases. That's the first thing I want to say. Okay. So when you are newly married, or just beginning a relationship, that your sex life then is going to be much different than after you have kids, after a traumatic experience.
Yes.
Or after you start work. We got married initially out of school. And so that stress level is so much lower than suddenly working a 40-hour work week. Taking on the stresses of like adult life versus being a college student. All of those things are going to impact your sex life. The other part is that as I grow, I learn myself more. And the more experimental sex partner has to allow the more conservative sex partner the time and space to mature and grow, so that way they can learn themselves. Because I was listening to this podcast just recently, and they were saying that I'm going to read it because I wrote it down. The best sex comes from knowing yourself and then revealing yourself.
Yes.
And you, meaning spouse, you can help with that, but that is something that I have to own. Is understanding what makes my body tick, what makes my body, what do I like, what don't I like. And that's the unfortunate thing that I think we miss a lot of times with like purity culture, is that we ban sex, we have all of these negative connotations with it, and then we go into marriage thinking let's all do this, but I don't even know my own body. I literally don't know my own body.
Now, on that thought, I think one of those reasons is when you are purity, and the church is not talking about sex, and maybe your parents are not talking about sex, there's just like,
silence.
Nothing. I don't. So like, okay, so early in our marriage, I'd be like, okay, so what do you like? And you'd be like,
literally, I don't know.
I don't know what I like or not liking, until maybe it happens. You're like, oh, I mean, this is just like a lot to even ask for, because you like, in order to remain pure, you're not having those you specifically.
Yeah.
You're not having those conversations. You're not having that exploration or anything like that.
At all.
So you are starting from literally like ground zero.
Absolutely.
And now, and you dealing with a person like me who is, let's just say, not starting at ground zero and ain't trying to start at ground zero.
But it's not even it's just the idea of being like more experimental. And that's honestly what I'm hoping this new book that I'm reading will talk about, is that balance of, yes, hold on to purity, but also understand that there is a healthy relationship that you can have with sex. And therefore have with your spouse.
So I don't know if you answered my question. How do you get from there to there?
That's what I'm saying, is that you have to learn. So I got you.
Okay.
Number one, learn yourself. Learn yourself.
Now, what do you mean by that?
How you do that, first step, if you have these negative connotations, I recommend educating yourself differently. You literally have to like unpack because honestly, when we first got married, I didn't even realize I was brainwashed. I didn't even realize I was holding on to these notions of purity culture and all of these things, and they were impacting me. I didn't realize any of it until we're trying to have sex. We're trying to be intimate, and I'm like, hold on.
Because
this isn't what I expected.
Would you even say you were looking forward to sex?
I was.
You were?
Yes. I would say that more of like the, just the experience and like the curiosity of it. Because it was all new to, I didn't watch no movie. I didn't know none of these things. So I'm like, so how is this going to work? Like, what's going to happen? I'm excited and curious about this world that I've never experienced. And then you get there and you realize how unprepared you are.
So you were like, whoa, got a little too much dip on your chip there, player.
Too much dip on the chip, and I am not and so it's more than just like, we can have this simple sex, but you want to do what? And this also should happen? And wait a minute, this should happen every day? My mind isn't ready for this. When you should think of it more like, as a kid, you want candy and you can eat it every single day. It's the best thing on planet Earth. And it's like, oh, I finally got married. I can get this piece of candy. It is so great. And instead you're kind of like, I mean, I don't even really
It's not good for your teeth.
Right.
The sugar alone is a problem.
Exactly.
I mean, you're asking for a lot.
And so you're thinking of like all of these negative things when it's like, no, you can have this. It's okay. And you're just like, yeah, but no. And that's like that unhealthy relationship with sex. So getting to know yourself, unpacking, and getting to know yourself in the sense of like, recognizing or trying to recognize or point out, identify is the word I'm looking for. Trying to identify the negative associations that you've consumed about sex.
Right.
Recognizing what those are, unpacking them, and then teaching yourself something different.
Right.
And that is usually through either books or like therapy.
Or experimentation. With your partner.
So I'm actually going to not agree with that.
Okay.
Because experimentation is just the act.
You're talking about that mental
You
first.
have to change your mind.
Yeah.
You literally have to change your mindset about it. I definitely think that a hindrance for us early in our relationship was you trying to get me to like experiment or do different things that I wasn't comfortable with, thinking that through experimentation I would get comfortable with it.
Right.
When reality is you have to start with your mind first before you can like display, like the outward display is a reflection of what's going on in your mind.
Yeah, that's Bible. You got to have a renewed mind.
You do have to have a renewed mind, and this is definitely one of those things that will take renewing, like undoing that old mindset that sex is bad, sex is, nasty and or whatever, and turning over this new leaf that says that is completely different, and establishing a new, healthier relationship with sex, and therefore having a better sex life with your spouse.
And I think even if you had sex prior or you've been divorced or whatever, there are some things that you're going to have a conversation about, because you're going to have to say, I like this. I don't like this. This is too much. This is not enough. I'm comfortable with this tonight, that tonight. What you want from me, I'm not really able to do that, or that makes me uncomfortable, or I really want to try this new thing, or whatever that case is. Right. I think a lot of times, in or out of the church, I think a lot of times you just have a hard time having conversations about sex. Like, it's an awkward thing to talk about.
Absolutely.
I think we just assume, okay, we're married now, so our sex life should be, it should work. And I don't think that it's as easy as that. Absolutely not.
I would actually say that sex is probably one of the hardest conversations for a couple to have.
Yeah. And a lot of times your tendency is to want to have that conversation when you're about to have sex, or there's some things you need to have during sex, like let's try this, or that's not working, or whatever. But like comfortability things, that needs to happen prior to the act, because otherwise, you may do something that person's not comfortable with, and then they don't say anything, and then you think, well, that's okay. I guess they didn't say anything,
and that's never good. That's a violation of trust. And they feel like if I say something, it's going to ruin the mood, or they do say something and the mood is ruined.
Yeah. So the best way of action I would assume is to have that conversation after before is easier.
Yeah. It doesn't, whether it's before or after, you should just be having those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. That much is true.
Typically speaking, the woman is the lower desire partner. Although I just heard a podcast the other day and they said that 40% of men are lower desire, which is a lot higher than I would have imagined.
Yeah.
Like a lot higher than I would have imagined. But so still the statistics say that it's generally women.
Right.
And the hardest thing for the lower desire spouse is that they often feel like something is wrong with them. And that brings on a lot of like shame,
self-doubt,
embarrassment.
Yeah. And then it probably leads to the person thinking like there's something wrong with them. Like, I know when you have had lower desire and you just like not into it or whatever, I would be like, man, is she attracted to me? Like, what am I doing wrong? Because, when you're trying to be in a committed relationship, I've said this to you, like, all I can do is have sex with you.
Right.
It's not like if this ain't working, like, okay, let me just go have my sex with my other person, then come back and we'll just be friends and be married. You know what I mean? So, when you are in a committed relationship, you're trying to make it work with each other.
Right.
And that's what makes it difficult, because you're feeling guilty because you feel like you have lower libido, or you don't just want to do this or whatever. And I'm feeling guilty because I can't, make you happy in that way, or I can't coax you into doing some things that I want you to do. And especially if you've had previous partner, you could be thinking about, oh man, when I was with old boy, old girl, they used to do that thing that I like.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting that thing that I like. And maybe I missed that old thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to go and find it again. And then you're going down a dangerous path when you're trying to fix a sex problem in your relationship outside of your relationship,
right?
Because it's not like, going to McDonald's for the burger and Chick-fil-A for the fries. Ain't nobody tripping about that,
right?
If you got the time. If you're going to somebody else's body for the fries, hey man, stick with the analogy, you got a problem.
Absolutely, you do have a problem.
And one thing we didn't talk about that much.
Hold on, I wasn't finished with this thought.
Oh, okay.
And that is that. So the lower desire partner normally has this sense of shame and like something's wrong with them. And in order to move forward healthily, a podcast I was listening to actually said the starting point should be that the lower desire is valid.
Yes.
And because it is valid, it is on them, which actually, oddly enough, kind of ties into what I was saying earlier, is that they have to do the work to figure out what are those reasons.
Right.
And if those reasons are trust, a lack of trust or vulnerability between you and your spouse, then you can have that dialogue, share what's going on with you, and then you can move together towards resolution.
Right.
If that issue actually has to do with your upbringing, then do the work, go to sex therapy, read books, whatever you have to do to unpack that, those negative connotations. So that way, again, you can reach a resolution and move together with your spouse in a healthy way. But it is up to you to do that work to figure that out. So that's not to say that what you are feeling, that's not to invalidate your feelings. Right. It's actually to say that what you are feeling is valid. Right. There is a reason you don't want or you have a lower desire to have sex with your partner. That is a valid reason. There is something there. Now do the work to identify it.
So you're saying
don't
it all
just
falls
stay
on
there.
The lower desire person?
I'm saying that it should start.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that it should. Yes. I'm saying that it should start with them, because how are you going to figure it out?
Right. And what happens is, in our sex life, it has led to some frustration on my part, because I'm like, man, God, dog, like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
And if I don't, the work you're talking about, a lot of times is solo work. So
and that's what I'm saying. That's why it has to start with the lower desire.
So if I don't see you doing that, I'm just like, man, she just like, I remember having this thought like, man, is it always going to be like this? Mm-hmm. Like, because we got married super young.
Yes.
21 and 20. And I'm just like, man, if this is going to be like that, it's going to be a long.
Well, and that goes back to
long marriage.
There are phases.
Yes.
And
thank the Lord.
Yes. But this is the other thing, is that recognizing that there are phases, and even if it's good now, it doesn't mean that it will always be.
Yeah. What if your leg falls off? It's going to be like, dang, bro.
Or what if you just get old, because father time is undefeated, and your
probably
hormones,
why your leg fell off.
And your hormones change, and kids grow up, and work stresses change,
or your body changes,
or your body
you don't find yourself sexy anymore.
There are all of these factors that are going to play a role, and again, those things will impact your desire, and it's up to you, lower desire, because at the end of the day, the lower desire controls the sex.
Yes.
And so you don't want neither one of you want to neither want to be in a position where you are uncomfortable.
Right.
So I don't want
ones in the bedroom is not gonna.
But I even mean in a sense like I am uncomfortable because I am accommodating your sex needs when my needs aren't met. Mm-hmm. Or you're uncomfortable because I'm not meeting your sex needs because I don't want to, for whatever reason. Right. Whatever, again, those reasons are valid. It's going to lead
to an unfulfilled sex life. And then like, even when you're having sex, you're just like,
right.
This ain't even like.
And that's unfair to both of you.
Yeah, and it's trash sex.
And
don't nobody want that. Even the garbage man is like, ugh, man, that was trash.
The trash man?
And I deal with that, trash on a daily basis. And that was trash. I think, the funny thing about this is.
Hold on, one last thing, because I want to just say this one last part before because I feel like you're going to segue. I was going to segue. I know. Is that the podcast I was listening to, when they were talking about the work, again, because it does tie into this,
right?
Is that the higher desire also has work to do as well.
Yes. And what is that work?
And that work,
and tell them.
Okay. So the higher desire work is recognizing that the work that the lower desire has to do has nothing to do with their desirability. And I was reminded of that when you said that. That yes. I would feel like, am I desired? Do you want me? Like, is it always going to be like that?
Let me tell you why, even more for me. I don't have no muscles. So it's not like I can look in the mirror and be like, bro, I know I'm physically fit. You know what I mean? So, and that plays in your head. Like I used to have hair. I didn't have great hair, but I had a hairline. I didn't plan on being bald. So now I'm like, is it the stomach? Is it the hair? I so ugly. All I have is my smile, and you can't see it in the dark.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? So that starts to play in your, and when you're in your head in that way during sex, sex is so mental.
And it is.
And that's another thing I wanted to say about, I don't know if this really plays into vulnerability, but something I underestimated is, especially early in our marriage, you know, a working wife with 2 kids and a commute. And especially at that time and at most times, I'm not really helpful when it comes to household chores and duties. And I'm just like, oh boy, 10 o'clock, I still know what time it is. And you have, you know, all this stuff in your mind. Like, it's tough to now, especially the way women's minds work, or they're like, you know, all over the place. Like thinking, and what I mean by that, there's a lot of windows open, like not illogically, but there's a lot of thoughts happening.
A lot of windows open was a good analogy.
A lot of windows open. I'm not doing no help to close those windows, and you're trying to have sex just like a computer. Right. You got all those windows open, that thing running slow. And you want to help it run at optimal speed. Exactly. You got to clean them, close some of them windows down.
Exactly.
Refurbish that hard drive, clear it up so that thing can work.
And I was going to say the other thing that happens is it burns out.
Come on in here. You hear that fan whirring?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you're like,
and that's a lot of times what happens for women is that we're just at a point at the end of the night where we are burned out.
Yeah.
And so again, and it just all ties back to there are phases to sex. There's this aspect of there's work involved. Like that's the other part, is that there's work involved. Every relationship, someone is going to have a lower sex drive.
Absolutely. And whether that's a man or a woman is relationship specific. But here's the thing I want to say too. It's on the same topic.
Okay.
During the times where we are not in a momentum cycle and we are not vibing for whatever reason, before we've had a serious conversation about it and have had the sex is not fire right then.
Right.
It's like you maybe agree, but you're reluctant.
That is due to a lack of intimacy.
Yes. And I'm just like, bruh, what do I have to do?
I be making sense. Like I be just not going to school and stuff. Like I don't have no degrees, but like God be giving me information.
But when we cross the other side, the sex is always better on the other side of that, issue. And a lot of times those issues have nothing to do with like sex.
No.
Like most recently it was the Kev is not vulnerable enough. And it's like, it's hard. And the thing is, sex is such a physically close thing.
Yes.
And you're having a physically close act.
That is disconnected.
Mentally and emotionally. It's like a Lego piece.
That is intimacy.
That's intimacy. It's like a Lego piece with 3 slots. And you trying to connect this 2 with these, and you just connecting there. It's not the same.
This analogy is too much. I don't follow Legos that much.
Okay, you know the Lego with 6 blocks.
The Legos with 6 blocks?
With 6 things. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? You have 3 things you can press in. Look at this. You see this. Okay? This fit. Okay? Is very strong. This fit is not as strong.
Got it.
So you're just trying to have sex that's connected like this, and here's your intimacy, here's your other stuff.
Oh, okay, I got it. But what Lego looks like that?
The Legos, you didn't play with Legos?
Apparently not.
Lego. Pull up a Lego on your phone. See that. Because, so you're trying to connect Legos and build a spaceship. You're putting a little piece between the 2.
You built spaceships with your Legos?
Okay. Melissa had a nanny, so she didn't have to go to latchkey care like I did.
All I'm saying is
I want you to get
played with my Legos. It was very let me build a house.
You had rich Legos. Let me show you.
Apparently, you had rich Legos if you were building spaceships.
Okay, let me just show you a Lego, so you can see. Okay, you see the Lego, right? You see the 4 slots.
Yep.
If you press those 4 and they're all evenly aligned, It's a stronger connection.
Oh, I get what you're saying. This is not that.
Well, I don't have Lego hands.
But you should have did it like this.
I did that at first, and you weren't getting it.
Child.
Oh, boy. It'd be your own
You should work on your... Like, I used the jar, and that was so
jar was good, but
much
you also
better.
had a jar to actually hold. If I had Legos in my hands, I would show you.
You should have thought of your
But our kids only play with their phones and video games. Yeah.
Okay, go back.
I don't know where it was.
So I think what you're saying is that there is sex, intimacy, vulnerability. Like there's all these components.
Yes.
And you can have sex without these other components, and that relationship will not be, that connection won't be as strong. Your Wi-Fi connection is down.
Yes. Maybe that's a great analogy. Sex, when everything is connected, is when the Wi-Fi ain't even Wi-Fi. It's when you're hardwired into the modem.
Yes.
It's like, this is going to work. We got a desktop in there. It don't never go out.
It don't never go out.
The stream's perfect. Wi-Fi, the further you... Boom. There's your analogy.
Come on, tell me.
Sex is like your Wi-Fi, okay? The connection is the modem.
Okay.
The closer I am to the modem, the more I feel connected.
Yes.
Further away I get, the less the strength is, the harder it is. So if we're disconnected emotionally, it's like being very far away from the modem.
I got you. That was a much better analogy.
The internet's not working. But if you stand right next to the router, you feel really connected.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the same thing. And it really is more fulfilling. Sex.
On both sides.
On both sides, you're able to do new tricks, things, and the conclusion of the matter feels so much conclusory. I feel better, so much better since I laid my burdens down. So you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
And that's the thing. Like, I think the phases thing is really important. We don't have to dwell on it, but the longer you are married, the more phases you are going to have in life.
Oh, absolutely.
Children, jobs, moving, work, thought processes, all that's going to affect your marriage in all the different ways, including sex, so, and some of it, a lot of it, those things are not even related to sex at all.
No.
But they're going to affect sex because it's all connected.
This is how I like my mic to be, by the way.
That's why I be saying women's minds are all over the place. You stop that to say that.
I know,
right
I'm
then.
sorry, but I wanted to tell you because you had it this way and I was trying to make it work. But because I'm turned this way,
yes. So set your own mic up. You independent black woman.
I tried and you moved it.
I tried. Sometimes I failed and I really loved.
Okay,
all right,
edit
ready
that
to
out.
close? The mic thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so to wrap up, what have we talked about? We talked about a few things. Thing number one is that there is an inherent vulnerability that is associated with sex.
Yep.
And without that a component of vulnerability is trust, which we didn't say, but that's actually accurate.
Yes.
And so without that trust between you and your spouse, that means I don't have that vulnerability, which will impact your sex life.
Right.
If you are the lower desire spouse, what you are feeling in terms of that low desire, those reasons that you have the low desire are valid,
right?
But do the work to identify those reasons,
yes.
So that way you can move forward in a healthy relationship, like just in relation to sex, but also then with your spouse,
right?
Like do the work to change your mindset or whatever it is,
right? Change
your mindset so that way you can be more open with sex and therefore more open with sex with your partner.
Yes.
And that there are phases to life and thus there are phases to sex.
Yes.
So,
and that's just not foreplay, heavy play, petting, conclusion.
Yeah, no.
It's just other stuff.
That is that
heavy
sometimes
petting is a hilarious phrase, by the way. This is some heavy petting. Usually I go with the light petting. This is heavy petting.
This is heavy. Make sure you're like panting as well. But I just want to say that, even if you're going through a lull in your sex life now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will always be like that.
Yeah.
And inversely, if you're having a really high time right now in your sex life, doesn't mean that it will always be like that.
High time in the Lord.
There are phases to life.
Yeah, and I think that's a thing that we, forget. We just like, man, there's some months that are great, weeks that are great, vacation sexes that are great. Vacation sexes that are not that great.
And vacation sex is different than home sex because of the number one, you're able to connect better.
Mm-hmm.
The stresses of life are gone.
Yep.
you're able to download, and typically whoever takes on most of the household chores no longer has that responsibility because room service.
So what if I just get a housekeeper for us every day though at our house, and a chef? I'm willing to invest a lot to take. First of all, I don't want to do it, but I'll make the money so someone.
Yeah, but the other part is that it is important for me that I do it, and it is also important to me that sometimes you do it as well.
See, that's dumb though. It's important to you that you physically clean the house?
Yes, that is actually important to me.
How does that even make sense?
Because love.
What? Love should have brought you home last night. Do you think LeBron James and his wife ever clean their house anymore?
They probably don't, but that ain't me. And I ain't got LeBron James money.
We sure don't. We ain't even got LeBron James' oldest son money. He ain't got Bronny or Bryce. The dog probably got
his son's name, LeBron Jr. and Bryce.
Yeah. First of all, this is totally unrelated. His son didn't want to LeBron Jr. didn't want to wear his father's number on his basketball team because he didn't want to be associated with his dad. The boy's name is LeBron James.
I was about to say, and
Jr.
then boy, stop.
Your dad, you
literally have to change your whole name, and it's not like LeBron is like a common name.
No, it's not Mike. Are you Mike Davis' son? No. And LeBron be at the baby. You could wear number 1,000.
You are LeBron James.
Still
stop.
Going to
That's
know.
cute though. I mean, I get it. Create your own legacy, LeBron James Jr.
He needs to go in the bricklaying business.
He does.
And not basketball bricklaying. I mean, physically be a mason.
No, yes, precisely.
Put concrete.
And slather it.
You need to be slathering.
If you are in basketball, you will forever be compared and identified as LeBron James's son.
Absolutely.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, it is.
Hello?
If you're not going to be as good as LeBron.
Oh, yeah,
it's going to be tough. Yeah. And, I mean, LeBron being
and
top
a freak
3,
of nature.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, he's a freak of nature.
God bless him.
All right.
In
closing, we want to say thank you so much for listening to this podcast today.
Sunglasses are back on because my future is bright.
I hate them. Make sure that you follow us on social media. I can be found at Miss KevOnStage on all social media platforms.
I can be found at KevOnStage at everything.
And we'll be back next week, Thursday.
And also, don't forget to rate the podcast 5-star. Tell a friend if you want to support us monetarily, physically, with your money dollars. Buy Melissa's book, Journey to Self-Love. Buy a t-shirt. Buy a ticket to our show. You should put live.
Do you put the website in the show notes?
But I can do.
Yeah.
KevOnStage.com. And if nothing else, be a friend, tell a friend. God bless you. God keep you. We'll see you at the Love Hour Conference 2020.
All right.
Atlanta, Georgia.